Hello, Rashidale. Welcome back to season 4 of Dharma Sharing. We're trying to understand more about the teachings by Gampopa from his book called The Jewel Ornament of Liberation. And before we start, that I should not forget, we shall go to refuge to Buddha Dharma Sangha and generate bodhicitta. Sangye Jodan Zoge Jonam La Jangju Bado Dane Gazon Je Dagi Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Penje Sangye Duborisho Sangye Chodan Zoge Jonam La Jangju Bado Dane Gazon Je Dagi Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Penje Sangye Duborisho Sangye Jodan Zoge Jonam La Jangju Bado Dane Gazon Je Dagi Jinso Gebe Sonam Ge Dola Benje Sangye Drobore Sho Semjen Tamjen Dewan Dan Deve Yudan Demba Yuje Dunga Dan Dunga Ye Yudan Drawa Yuje Dunga Neve Dewa Damba Midawa Yuje Ngeren Jadan Yidan Deven Danyum Jembola Nebora Yuro Je Semjen Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Yudan Demba Yuje Dunga Dan Dunga Ye Yudan Drawa Yuje Dunga Neve Dewa Namba Naminda Yuje Ngeren Jadan Yidan Deven Danyum Jembola Nebora Yuro Je Semjen Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Yudan Demba Yuje Dunga Dan Dunga Ye Yudan Drawa Yuje Dunga Neve Dewa Namba Naminda Yuje Ngeren Jadan Yidan Danyum Jembola Nebora Yuje Balden Zawe Lama Rinpoche Dagen Jura Beme Den Shola Kadin Chembe Wane Je Sonde Guzon Doge Ngodron Zando Zo. Okay, so so we'll be continuing chapter 16, the perfections of meditative concentration. So we are now trying to learn these different trainings, the trainings of the engaged bodhicitta, the 6 paramitas. So among the 6 paramitas, we have completed the first 4, and now we are trying to understand the 5th paramita, that is the paramita of meditative concentration. And here, as Buddha said, if someone wants to attain enlightenment, one need to know or realize the wisdom, the primordial wisdom. And the very basic process of realizing primordial wisdom, the fundamental, method is the meditative concentration. Without meditative concentration, one cannot attain Buddhahood. So because of that reason, this particular chapter is very, very important. And yesterday also, during this first session of season 4, we also talk about the importance of the meditative concentration. Without meditative concentration, one cannot have clairvoyance, and when you do not have clairvoyance or special extraordinary psychic power, then you cannot benefit many beings. And as well as if you do not have this meditative concentration, then you'll not be able to realize the primordial wisdom. And when you do not have primordial wisdom, then you do not have the way to attain perfect and complete enlightenment. So when you look at this, from all this perspective, then this meditative concentration is a very important, a very key issue of all our practices. And that is why among the 6 paramita, the most important is the 6th paramita, which will be discussed in the later future. The 6th paramita itself is the wisdom itself, the knowing of the true nature of phenomena, primordial wisdom. And for that reason, in order to attain that wisdom, we need to have this meditative concentration. So without meditative concentration, it is very, very hard to attain Buddhahood and also to benefit sentient beings, because This is the only way how you can attain primordial wisdom and how you can attain clairvoyance. So these two key here. Clairvoyance, if you have clairvoyance, you'll be able to benefit more sentient beings. And if you have primordial wisdom, then obviously you'll be able to see the true nature of phenomena. And that is the perfections of wisdom. And if you look at all the 6 paramitas, all 5 paramitas are meant to actualize the 6th paramita, the wisdom paramita. And in order to have this wisdom paramita, as I mentioned earlier, the 5th paramita, meditative concentration, is very, very important. And all others are supportive to this meditative concentration. So meditative concentration, you cannot just have meditative concentration right away. You cannot just sit and be able to focus. You cannot, it's not easy to have the calm, abiding state of mind. So you need some practice there. And not only practice, you also need some good merits there, because we believe as Buddhists, we believe that since from our beginning last time, we have lots of, karma that we need to purify. And for that reason, there are also accumulation parts, accumulations of merit parts. So other paramitas are the accumulations of merits. And the teachings of the Buddha, if you categorize all the teachings of the Buddha, you can categorize them into 3 baskets: Shil, Samadhi, Gyan, or moral ethic, concentration, and wisdom. These 3 are the main important of Buddha's teaching. So Shila or Shil, that is moral ethic. We already studied. That's the 2nd paramita, which is to do with your physical, body and speech. Try to restrain your body and speech from involving in the non-virtuous act, and as well as try to protect your mind from involving in non-virtuous thoughts as well. So that's the Shila Paramita. And then on top of that, as that base, so when you become Buddhist or the Buddhist follower, trying to understand Buddha's teaching, what we need to do is first we need to train in moral ethics. So this is how where you can begin with, like we have Upasaka and Upasika vows, lay vows, and we have monastic vows. So these are the way how one can either become ordained and follow the monastic rules and precepts, keep the precepts, or just be a layperson and take refuge and also take the Upasaka and Upasika precepts. So this is in order to protect our physical, body and speech from involving in non-virtuous act, like physically involving in non-virtuous act, like killing, stealing, and involving in undisciplined way, from the physical appearances, physical form, engagement through physical. Then we have also, try to abstain or protect our speech from involving in non-virtuous act, like telling lie, gossiping, using discursive thought, speeches, so on and so forth. Likewise, trying to protect your mind from involving in the generation or developing of the hatred, jealousy, and so forth. So this is how we try to protect ourselves, because we just start meditative concentration right away. It is very important. It is not easy. It is difficult. So before we trying to gain some kind of concentration, what we need to do is we need to train our physical body and speech in order to protect our mind. So this is the way how we can involve in practicing the moral ethics. Then second is, Buddha said, then what we need to do is, then we need to meditate. Don't always waste your time of accumulation of merits all the time. You need to, upgrade yourself. You need to promote yourself, your practice. So then meditation comes very, very important here. Meditative concentration is the key issue here. Without meditative concentration, there's no way how you can tackle your emotions. There's no way how you can reduce your departments, negative afflictions and emotions, how you can minimize negative afflictions and emotions, and how you can maximize good qualities of loving kindness, compassion, forgiveness, appreciations. So that is why this chapter is very, very important. And when you have stable meditative concentration, then with that base, with that kind of strong and stable meditative concentration, the wisdom arises within itself naturally. So that's why it is very important to have meditative concentration. We need to practice. We need to, make habit of meditating. It is not only from the Dharma point of view, it is also from the general point of view. As we know that when we are disturbed in our thoughts, when we are disappointed, when we are distressed or depressed, then if you just sit down and calm and breathe normally and focus on breathing exercise of inhaling and exhalations or meditation, it really helps there. So you can experience this. So in our ordinary life, meditation also helps us a lot. So, and also if you study, if you Google, there are lots of good benefits of meditating, having meditative concentration. It will also generate, your brains. It will develop your brains. It will develop your thinking capacity. All these good qualities, all these beneficial effects of meditation or being mindful or concentration. So that is why it is very important, not only from the Dharma point of view, but also from the general, a mundane point of view as well. So that's why nowadays we have lots of meditation centers around the world, Vipassana meditation, Samadhi meditation centers, all different types of, yoga meditations and all. And these are all, their whole aim is to make ourselves happier, healthier, more peaceful in our mind, and so it always helps. So therefore, here today's subject, what we're trying to discuss is the meditative concentration. Okay, so this is some kind of idea that we should know. So therefore, after having this meditative concentration, then, as I mentioned earlier, wisdom awareness will take place naturally. So Buddha's teaching, out of so many thousands of teachings, and it can be categorized into three main baskets: ethic, concentration, and wisdom. Shil, Samadhi, Gyan. So today we are going to talk about the second, that is the concentration. And what does this concentration means? Meditative concentration means, so I will continue from where we stopped last time. So we are here in the definitions of meditative concentration. What is concentration? The concentration actually is, calm, abiding state of mind. We usually are not in that state of mind. We are always, thinking. Lots of thoughts arises. It is known as the discursive of thoughts, agitation of discursive of thoughts. We're always agitated by different thoughts of the past, future. So we are really not living at present. Even though your body is here in this room, but then your mind is not in your body. Your mind is either on the past experiences, thought of past experiences, or future planning, and so on and so forth. So therefore, we are always engaged. We are always distracted. We are all agitated by discursive thoughts. And this is here from the Dharma practitioner point of view. This is not healthy. This is not supportive. So what we need to do is we need to forget all other thoughts and bring your mind in one pointed focus, focusing on one particular thing. So this is how you try to bring your mind into a stable state, and that is known as calm, abiding state of mind. And here, if you go more advanced understanding than that, then you can say bringing your mind into one-pointedness into virtual acts. Skipping non-virtuous, but focusing on virtuous act. If you are reciting mantras, just focusing on the mantra and reciting, and not forgetting the syllables and practicing that. If you are just praying praise to Manjushri, for example, then you really forget all other thoughts. Don't let all other past and future thoughts try to involve in that. Try to distract you. But for focusing on the praise to Manjushri, what you are saying, and trying to focus on that meaning and remembering Manjushri's good qualities. So this is how you can train your mind from lots of different thoughts into one thought, bringing into one focus. So, and especially that focus, if that focus is with the directs with the virtuous act, virtuous thought, then that's excellent. And then when you get more advanced to that meditative concentration, then later on, no thoughts. Not even good or more, virtuous thought. Not necessarily that's important. So later on, you can just simply rest and look at the nature of your mind. Whether bad thoughts arises, no worries. Whether good thought arises, not overwhelmed, but just simply sitting on the thought and not let that nature of presence, and just looking at that nature without judging good or bad. So this will come later on in the Mahamudra meditation. So there are different types of meditation. Buddha taught many levels of meditation according to the ability of students, according to the wish of different students. So the most simple way of understanding what is meditative concentration is the main objective of meditative concentration is to develop single-minded, directed to any particular thing. Either that can be meditating on the statue of Buddha, for example. Keep one Buddha statue in front of you and just focus Buddha, and then rest in that. And don't let other thoughts, engage or obstruct that particular meditation. So this is how you try to bring your mind from all different thoughts to one point is on a single pointed thought, or trying to focus in your mind into one particular object. But usually without meditation, what happens that we have, we are doing something, then there's another change of thoughts coming, and then there's a third change of thoughts coming, and then fourth, and it continues like cycle of thoughts. That is why sometimes when you're cooking in the kitchen, for example, you burn your fingers, or when you're chopping something, you cut your fingers, or when you are boiling something or frying something, then sometimes it burns. This is all because of not having meditative concentration, not having mindfulness in your any kind of job. And if you have the habit of meditation, then it is much easier for you to focus. Either it can be on your daily activities, or either it can be your practice of Dharma. It always helps if you have good mindfulness, good meditative concentration. Then you are not distracted by different thoughts. Otherwise, what happens is that there are change of thoughts arising every now and then. Then you later on sometimes you forget what you're doing, what you're supposed to do. At the first place, then you forgot that because lots of different thoughts were participating at the same time, one after another. And this is all happens because of not having the habit of meditative concentration. Okay, so we start. The definition here, Gampopa says, the definitions of meditative concentration is that it has the nature of calm abiding, a peaceful state of mind. Not always, dragging around with different thoughts, driven away with thousands of thoughts. But then it is kind of nature of calm, abiding state of mind, peaceful state of mind. The mind abides inside one-pointedly on virtue. So as I mentioned earlier, is pointed in internal thing to do, is pointed one-pointedly on virtue. So if you're meditating on loving kindness and compassion, so there you're just focusing on loving kindness and compassion. If you're just meditating on generosity, you're just focusing on the importance of generosity and how you can develop your generosity, how you can act your generosity in the field to benefit someone. Likewise, if you are meditating on moral ethics, then you're trying to understand different kinds of moral ethics, different precepts of moral ethics, and why it is important to have this kind of meditative, this moral ethics to keep. So it's on the virtuous side, one-pointedly on virtues. So among the 6 paramitas, the first paramita, generosity, is actually accumulations of merits. At the same time, it is also moral ethics, because we have studied that there are 3 types of moral ethics. So the third type is the benefiting sentient being, is also one of the 3 moral ethics. So that also includes the generosity. How you can benefit sentient beings is through generosity, being generous, sharing your things, food, clothing, shelter, knowledge, whatever you can, sharing with others, because you don't want to see others suffering. Why? Because you also don't want to experience the suffering. Just like you don't like the experience of suffering, so other beings will have the same kind of feeling, that they also do not want to suffer. So this kind of reason behind your practice of generosity. And then the third generosity, patience, and fourth generosity, diligence or perseverance. These are always important for any kind of practice, whether to keep your moral ethics, whether to focus on meditative concentration, or whether to generate wisdom. We always need to have diligence. Otherwise, you will not reach your destiny, because this what called laziness, will take place in between. It will block us from reaching our final destination. So if you have perseverance, diligence in the practice of the Dharma, then definitely you will reach your destination, if not immediately, but definitely. Likewise, practicing patience is also very important, because benefiting others, you need to have patience, because different sentient beings has different backgrounds of karma. So even though if you are doing something very good for others, it is not always necessary that they also should do the good thing to you. Sometimes you will experience unimagined circumstances, and that when that happens, if you are not losing your kind of stable mind, if you are not losing your loving kindness and compassion, that is the practice of patience itself. So this is very important. So whatever thing you are doing related with the virtuous things, if you are concentrated, if you are focused on whatever you're doing, that itself is meditative concentration. Okay. So also from the chapter of concentrations from the Bodhisattva Bhumi, it says here, the mind abides one-pointedly on virtue, and that is known as meditative concentration. So another way of understanding meditative concentration, you can simply say that it is undistracted mind, abiding one-pointedly, unmixed with defilements, unmixed with pleasures. So in other words, it is pure virtue, undistracted mind, abiding one-pointedly, unmixed pleasures or with defilement. Or you can also say, absorption, meditative absorption, or you can also call it mental stability, stable, not agitated by different thoughts. Sometimes it is also translated as meditative equipoise, tranquility. So there are lots of different translations for meditative concentration. Okay, this kind of meditative concentration is further achieved through complete avoidance of the distractions, which are the opposite of concentration. Okay, so if you want to know, if you want to develop your meditative concentration, then what you should know is you should avoid its opposites, and that's its distraction. So first we need to know what are the distractions then. What are the distractions to our meditative concentration? We need to understand how many types of distractions are there. And once you are aware of these distractions, this kind of disturbance, this kind of obstacles, then you'll be able to minimize those obstacles, then make your meditative concentration stronger, deeper, and more formed, so that you'll develop wisdom awareness. So here, Gampopa first would like us to know the opposite of meditative concentration. So we need to avoid those meditative, the disturbance, the what you call these obstacles of meditative concentration. So therefore, Gampopa presents here, the first one should avoid distractions. So there are mainly two distractions in our meditative concentration, which are, opposite, which are the obstacles of our meditative concentration. So there are two distractions. If you are involved in these two distractions, then you will not be able to develop your meditative concentration. So the first one is, your body. And so we have this, our body and mind, right? So if you want to have meditative concentration, actually it's the mind that is meditating, not the body. But then also, because of the beginners, for the beginners, ordinary being, we need to, protect our body also at the same time if you want to develop your meditative concentration. So therefore, there are two distractions. One is body. That is, body should be isolated, from physical agitations. If you are not be able to isolate your body from physical agitations, then it is hard for us to develop meditative concentration. Then second is, we need to isolate our mind from discursive thoughts. So there are two agitations that we need to be abandoned. So the first is, here it says, the avoidance of distraction is called solitude. The avoidance of distractions from the Dharmic point of view is called solitude. So why we go to solitude retreat, why we go into monasteries, why we keep distance from our body from things that are happening a lot, lots of hustles and bustles, lots of distractions, lots of involvements. So we need to kind of isolate our body from those type of things, those situations, circumstances. So therefore, we need to isolate our body from physical agitations. And what are those physical agitations? Obviously, there are lots of physical agitations nearby, surrounding ourselves here, like town, and lots of shopping marts, shopping centers, cinema halls, lots of things are happening. Obviously, it's more happening in this modern era than the back 19th century. So there are lots of distractions are here in front of us, and that makes it even hard for us to meditate. That is why we're still not realizing wisdom. That is why we can't see many, realized people nowadays. It's because there are lots of distractions, lots of physical agitations. And we should, avoid these physical agitations. We should isolate our body from these physical agitations. Physical agitations, are our surrounding our relatives, our family members, our friends, our company, all these friends and relatives. If you live in this, with this kind of circumstances, obviously it is good to support each other, but then, it will take all your time and energy for this mundane, in order to fulfill this mundane wish, mundane great mundane, desire. So it will take all your time. So therefore, Buddha also left his palace. The one of the main key issue to leave his royal family behind is that he knew that if he stayed there for longer, then he will never have freedom to practice the Dhamma, the meditation. So he can see all these happenings in the palace, with his own eyes and with his own ear. He heard lots of difficulties, lots of, in their, at that time, kind of parliament house where king and other ministers and sometimes kings of other different kingdoms, they come and they have lots of things to discuss about, even though they have everything, as good facility, luxurious life, but then they are always, their mind is always not in peace. There's always something new thing that need to be worried about. There's always some worry that other kingdom really, capture the other, the second kingdom, so on and so forth. So he always heard this and seen from his own eyes. Then, because of that reason, he thought that's not best place to, find his wisdom. So therefore, he left his palace and then went into jungle. So likewise here also, we need to isolate our, body from the physical agitations. That means we need to sometimes take our time, take a break from this mundane life, and take weekend retreats. For example, this modern era, you cannot leave everything behind like Melareva. Obviously, it's very hard, and it's also quite hard, to live your ordinary life and become monks and nuns and stay in monasteries, nunnery, and also go into 3 years retreat. It's also not so easy. But then we should act according to our time. And the best thing to do is always try to find some time for yourself, for your internal growth, for your internal stability. You need to find some kind of weekend breaks. So as I know that you have been doing this, like from long weekends, you always find some, retreat. You always go to meet some religious teachers, Rinpoches, you take empowerments, you do Nyungne practices, you do, take Sojong vows. These are all very good thing to do. It is needed actually, and this will refresh you all the time. And I remember our Malaysian group always come to Namo Buddha for Namo Buddha retreat every year, and that is very good example. You should encourage these things to do. These are also here. It is also said by the Gampopa himself here. We should isolate our body from physical agitations. Okay, this is one thing to do, and this is actually not so hard. If you plan, if you have budget plan, then that's not so hard. But the second thing is more hard. Second thing is we need to isolate our, mind from discursive thoughts. That's hard thing to do. Like for me, I'm staying in monastery. I'm not having so much distractions from physical agitations. But then, whether that makes me free from mental disturbance, whether that makes me freedom from discursive thoughts, that we should examine, not necessarily. So the second thing is very, very important here. You try to free your mind from discursive thoughts, or isolate your mind from discursive thoughts. This is the second type of agitation, mental agitation. Even though your body is at the retreat center or at the monastery, then if you're still thinking of your business, of your family, of your relatives, spouse, children, husband, wife, then are you really free from physical agitations? Even though you're physically apart from them, are you really free from them? No, because you left their body behind, but then you took them in your mind. And then at the retreat center, at the monastery, it is still disturbing you. It is also distracting you from your goal, of attainment of primordial wisdom, from your goal, from practicing the meditative concentration, trying to calm your mind, trying to bring your mind into one focus, especially here with the relation to the retreat. we need to focus our mind one-pointedly on virtues, keeping your vows of sojong, or listening, paying attention to the teachers, what teachers teaching you, or meditating, focusing on your breath exercise, inhaling or exhaling, or focusing on your rhythm practice, focusing on the heart syllables. All these things, if they are distracted by your friends, family, thoughts of your past and future, planning of your business of the future, and what did you do, where you went for the last New Year holiday. So if these all things do occur in your mind where you do meditation at the retreat center, then you are not free from physical agitation as well. So you brought all this thought within yourself. So that's also not advisable thing to do here. So I'm trying to understand here, read more from the book. The avoidance of distractions is called solitude, where one is isolated from physical agitation and the mind is isolated from discursive thoughts. So these two agitations, we need to minimize, we need to reduce this. Engaging in the contact of Bodhisattva says, but through solitude of the body and mind, no discursive thought will occur. So if you are trying to maintain, that distance, your body from, physical agitations and your mind from discursive thought, then what will happen is your meditative concentration will grow, will have stable, will be more stable, and will grow more advanced, it will promote into more advanced level, the next level of realization. So in order to understand these agitations, these two distractions, here Gampopa says one should understand that isolations from physical agitation is discussed in 6 topics. So there are 2 agitations or 2 distractions, body and mind. So the first one we need to understand here, the first one is isolations from physical agitation. So we need to understand this with 6 topics here, 6 subtopics. The first one here, Gampopa says, is this primary characteristics of agitation. What is agitation? Physical agitation. We should first know. Without knowing physical agitation, then how can you avoid physical agitation, isn't it? So whenever you want to, you want to avoid or you want to adopt, we should know its characteristics, what actually it is. Then only we will be able to decide. So if you just don't know anything and if you decide follow, that's not something that is advisable by Buddha. And the second point is the cause of agitation. So first, you should know what is physical agitation. Then second, you should know what is the cause of that physical agitation. Which brings this cause of physical agitation? What is the root cause of it? This is the second thing. So first, you know the characteristic of agitation. Then secondly, you know the cause or the source of that agitation. And then third is the fault of agitation. Then you should know whether it is good or bad, physical, agitation. If it is bad, then you should be aware why it is bad, why it is disturbing your meditative concentration. So these three are the, first step to understand agitation. Then the next 3 steps is talking about the opposite of that agitation, and that is known as the solitude. So here again, same manner, the primary characteristic of solitude. What is solitude? That is opposite of agitation. What is solitude? Second thing is, again, same, the cause of solitude. What is the cause of solitude? How can you, bring solitude in your life, in your physical life? And then the second thought is the good qualities of solitude. What are the beneficial effects of living in solitude, which is opposite of agitation, physical agitation, the fault of, being with physical agitations, and the quality of being in solitude. So if you are able to know this and put both them on in front of you on your table, then you can decide which is good and which is bad, which you should be adopting and which you should be avoiding. So it's very clear, as a clear crystal in front of you, so that you can decide and know and then decide. That is why Gampopa present here in a very, reasonable manner. Okay, these 6 topics. Now, first one, the primary characteristic of agitation is to be scattered, or involving in lots of thoughts, scattered, or you can also call it, physical, scattered in physical way, distracted, because of your being in the midst of your children, spouse, retinue, wealth, family, friends, business. In other words, mundane society. So this is the characteristic of agitation, physical agitation. If you are surrounded, by all the people, the older people who always look for their fame, gain and fame, and who always pay attention to importance of the sensual objects, who always pay attention, importance for their gain and fame, then if you are living with this kind of people, then there's very less chance that you can develop your meditative concentration, because there are lots of distractions around, there are lots of disturbance there. So if you just leave them and go into retreat, it's a little better. Then you don't have to listen all their complaints. You don't need to listen, people quarreling, people making their own point of views, when you are with your family members or friends, then you don't need to listen of this something gossips of the third family members, third person, third family, third friends. So then you're a little bit safe from the physical agitation point of view. So this is what is known as primary characteristic. So if you're living in the midst of your spouse, children, relatives, friends, or samsaric life, then that is the characteristic of physical agitation. There's always something new. There's always something new complaints. There's always something that needs to be done. There's always something that is broken that needs to be fixed. There's always something that is not enough. There's always something that is, that agitation. So there's never-ending kind of, cycle of agitation. So you think that, oh, I have done enough and that's perfect now. But then later on, you think you hear some other news that something has broken, something has disturbed, something went wrong, and you know how much you pay attention to. It is never ending. So that's why it's known as never-ending cycle of samsara. Okay, that is the primary characteristic of physical agitation. Then the second one is the cause of agitation. What is the cause of this agitation then? Here, Gampopa says, is the attachment to such sentient beings as children, spouse, retinue, friends, relatives, companions, and so forth. Because of this, because of attachment, you cannot leave your retinues. You cannot be away from these physical agitations. The key point here is attachment. But, if that attachment is worthy, then it's okay. But from the Dharma point of view, it's not worthy, because everything is impermanence, everything changes. Because our attachment is to, to hold on something. You always want things, if things are good today, you always want things to be good all the time. And that does not happen. And that is the problem there. Not knowing that truth nature, the truth of that, impermanence nature. We are holding too hard, too strongly. For example, if you have a friend, a very good friend, you respect so much, you have big concern for them, and you always want that particular being to be happy all the time, to be with you all the time. to be nice to you all the time. That kind of attachment. And realistically, is that even realistic? Will that last forever? Unfortunately not. And when you do not know this true nature of impermanence, then you are making yourself more suffering. And this is the key issue there, attachment. So you have this attachment towards your retinue, friends, spouse, children, family members, relatives, companion. And because of that reason, you cannot, distance from them. You cannot isolate from physical agitations. So if you really want to, end this suffering, then at least for the beginner, you can isolate yourself from this kind of agitations. That is why, as I mentioned earlier, Buddha left his palace. That is why there's a practice of retreat in the mountain caves. That is why there's a practice of going into monasteries. That is why there's a practice of having, yearly, monthly retreats, weekend retreats. These are all to protect ourselves and refresh ourselves. Okay, so that's one thing. And second cause is that attachment to wealth. Not only the family members, but also attachment to the wealth, such as food, material things, These are also one of the, key issue here, which is the cause of agitation, physical agitation. And then we have this attachment to fame, prize, and so forth. So these three, attachment to your friends, family members, attachment to your wealth, material wealth, attachment, name, and fame. So these three are stuck, are kind of obstructing us from or delaying us from our attainment of perfect and complete enlightenment. So again, this brings us to remember where Gampopa said that why we are still in samsara, even though we have Buddha nature as a primary cause, even though we have this obtained this precious human body, even though that you have attained a precious teacher, even though you have heard the teachings so many times, so many instructions, so many empowerments, why are we still stuck in samsara? That is because, of having attachment to the importance of this lifetime. And what are the importance of this lifetime? Actually, from Dharma point of view, importance of this lifetime is to utilize this human body for the benefit of others, in utilizing this precious human body to meditate and to attain enlightenment, or at least realize what you call wisdom awareness. But we, instead of doing that, we are dragged towards this what you call sensual objects, pleasant form, sound, smell, taste, and texture. We are too attached towards these things, and we are too attached to attached to our family members, our name, our wealth, our fame. And because of that reason, we spend all our this precious human body, to make that happen, to fulfill their wishes, which is never ending, as I mentioned earlier. And as I mentioned earlier again, that if it is worthy, that's fine, but it's not worthy because that nothing lasts forever. How much you hold, that you cannot hold them forever. They are the nature of impermanence. They have the nature of, when they are born as a human being, they have the nature of, the suffering of aging, sickness, dying. So that's the natural fact, even though it is not sound, but it is the fact. So therefore, you cannot change this reality. So if you understand this reality earlier, the more earlier, the better it is to deal with different situations when you really face this kind of circumstances. Okay, so these are the cause. The main cause here of the physical agitation is attachment. Our attachment to the importance of this lifetime. here it is said that these things will not bring avoidance of agitation. So if you are too attached to your relatives, friends, a company, companions, if you are too attached to your wealth, material wealth, you are too attached to your name and fame, then this will not, bring any kind of meditative concentration. These things will not bring avoidance of agitation. It is said, worldly life is not forsaken because of attachment to our surroundings due to craving of material gain and alike. So this is the cause of agitation. And then the third point here Gampopa is making is whether this agitation is good or bad, whether having attachment towards your friend, family members, companion is good or bad, whether this attachment towards wealth, material wealth is good or bad, whether this attachment towards name, fame, whether it's good or bad. Obviously, from ordinary perspective, from ordinary point of view, we think this is good, this is things what we should be doing. And in fact, it is, because we need to take care of our family, we need to take care of our, our living. So wealth is important too. We need to have, some kind of position. That is why the family is also important. It looks like to us. But then these are all temporarily, as Buddha said. If you just want to focus on this, then, it will take long time. It is not bad, but it will take long time to reach enlightenment. It will keep delaying your process to enlightenment. It will delay your process of attainment of enlightenment. So if you really want to free yourself from the suffering of samsara, then you should, sooner or later, avoid these agitations. Whether you like it or not, this is the way how you can avoid agitations and, try to focus on internal value than the external values. External values are, not so important compared with internal value. External value, if they are there, that's fine. If they are not there, you should have kind of, awareness. You should have kind of that thinking that if that's not there, it's still okay for me. So it means that you are reducing your attachment. You are not so craving for wealth. You're not so craving for your fame. You're not so craving for your family, friends, and companions. So this is how you can, step by step, how you can minimize this attachment, this craving. And if you're able to do so, this will help your internal strength, internal growth of meditative concentration. So that's why here the third one says, the fault of agitation should be understood generally and particularly. There are two things where you can understand the shortcomings of these agitations. Concerning general agitations, the sutra requested with the extreme sincerity says, Matriba, there are 20 different types of defects. So these are all shortcomings and defaults or the faults of agitation. What are these 20? Body is unrestrained. So when your body is in the midst of family, friends, companion, or in other words samsaric people, then you are not free from agitations. You're not free from defilements, because whether you like it or not, you'll make some you will give rise to some kind of negative afflictions and emotions. Okay, in order to fulfill your family's wish, for your friend's wish, you'll generate jealousy for others. You'll generate hatred for others. You'll generate kind of use your speech, unpleasant speech, which are considered as non-virtuous act. So there's always a risk if you are surrounded by, if you are living in the midst of these physical agitations, there's always risks that you'll be one way or another, you'll be involving in non-virtuous act, which will be the cause for our future suffering, obviously. So this will then give us, continually experiencing of the suffering of samsara. So therefore, your body is not restrained. So when you are in this physical agitation, situation in the surrounded by physical agitation, then you cannot protect your body. You'll, there are many chances that you'll make non-virtuous acts from your body, like killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. Likewise, there's always big chance that you'll be telling lie, using divisive speech, gossip, obviously. And there's always chance that you'll be thinking, developing hatred, jealousy. So these are, because of that reason, there's always, chance of involving in non-virtuous act, developing of your defilements. So if you want to free yourself from the suffering of samsara, and if you want to free other beings from suffering of samsara, then you need to minimize the cause of samsara, the suffering of samsara. The cause of suffering of samsara are the defilements, karma, cause and effect. So instead of minimizing them, if you are maximizing or if you are multiplying or developing more and more negative afflictions and emotions, and more defilements, then that's not correct way to do. So therefore, there's too much risk of involving in physical non-virtuous acts. Likewise, speech and mind. And there's gross afflicting emotions are rampant. You flourish, or your affliction emotions will flourish. And then even worldly speech is affected. The maras have the chance to victory. Maras are the defilements here. We should understand defilement has more opportunity to have victory from your samadhi meditation. So in other words, you'll be overpowered by negative afflictions and emotions when you are involved in living in the midst of physical agitation. That's why we always encourage, to have less kind of involvement with samsaric activities. The less activity is involving in samsara, the more you have chances to, restrain your body and speech and mind from involving in non-virtuous acts. Calm abiding and special insights cannot be achieved if you are living in the midst of physical agitation. Okay, these are the general fault of agitation, and in particularly, you will not achieve enlightenment with the fault of attachment to sentient beings. Obviously, if you are too much attached to, this this life's achievement, then there's less chances that you'll be able to attain enlightenment, because you're focusing, you're paying attention, you're being diligent towards mundane development rather than super mundane development. So that is why there's particularly you will not achieve enlightenment, or it will make very long time for you to achieve enlightenment. The Moon Lamp Sutra says, one who fully attains sensual objects, craves children or spouse and so forth, clings to the home that should be rejected, will not achieve enlightenment at all. So therefore, it is always advisable that we should have some kind of, practice to have less involvement, samsaric involvement. This is how you can train your mind, train your body, speech, and mind. Restrain your body and speech and mind from involving in negative afflictions and emotions. That is why yogis, in the past, they like mountains so much, like Milarepa and other yogis. When you hear their dohas, their song of realization, when you hear their song of realization, you can always hear that how much they praise to this mountain, to that mountain, to this cave, to that cave. They never praise a village, township, kingdom, even though from the general point of view, from the general ordinary point of view, towns are more valuable than empty mountain caves. King palace are more luxurious than the obviously in the mountain caves. But those realized masters, when you hear their dohas, their songs of realization, you always hear them praising mountains and retreat caves. They never praise town, village, wealthy family, or kings. So there's a big reason behind it. Because if you are involved in town, village, society, then there's very less chance for you to actually do meditation. We are always engaged in different things. That's why we say, "Oh, I have no time for Dharma. I have no time for practice. I have not finished my ngondo." Some people still didn't finish their ngondo because too much involvement, too much attention towards this lifetime is important. And this lifetime that we have once, this precious human body is not permanent. You need to leave this body sooner or later. This is the real true fact. This is the nature of change. This is the nature of change of getting, aging, sickness, and death are there waiting for us. So this is the truth that we cannot avoid. So if you understand this, then you'll also pay more attention towards internal value, toward internal realization. Okay. Engaging in the contact of Bodhisattva also says, through being attached to living beings, I'm completely obscured from the perfect reality. Therefore, you should avoid these attachments. Because this attachment cannot benefit me, I also cannot benefit this attachment because it's never ending. I cannot fulfill all the wishes of my surrounding beings. Therefore, stay long distance from this childishness is very good way of developing internal strength. So we'll leave here for today with this message of the importance of having some good time for your internal value, internal meditative concentration. Okay. Having said that, I want to make one point here. But if someone who is not disturbed by any kind of agitation, then if you have that kind of realization, then it doesn't matter whether your body is in town or in the retreat cave. That doesn't matter at all because he or she is never distracted by these physical agitations as well as mental discursive thoughts. So we should pray to realize that kind of realization. Then it's very good. Like bodhisattvas, when they come into this world to benefit other beings, they don't just stay in caves, but they do associate with different beings in order to benefit them. And while they are associating with the different beings, they are never distracted by these agitations. So if that happens, that's the best thing to do. Okay, having said that, we'll leave here for today and to dedicate the merits for the benefit of all sentient beings, especially to heal this pandemic. So nam de tamje sipa ni thomne ni be tanam phamje ne kega na chi balak thubai sibe chole dogun nyu to sho changju simcho rimborche ma ke panam ke 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 ba nyam ba me ba hong ne gong do pe wa sho simjin ne ba jing ba nyu do ne le tha ke to ne ni ma le ba tao do chung wa me ba sho